Welcome to the Skoll World Forum on Social Entrepreneurship, live from Oxford, England. And today, we're going to be talking about play, imagination and refugees. And I'm very honoured to be having on my sofa here in Oxford, England, Muzoon Almellehan. You originally came from Syria. You fled your home in Syria when you were in the 9th grade, so you were about 13, something like that, in 2013. You then went to Jordan for a couple of years, and then you came here to the UK. And originally you're from Daraha, which was really the cradle of the Syrian uprising. And after the violence shut down your school and everybody else's school in the city, you and your family fled. And you were told, if I'm not mistaken, to bring only necessities. And you chose to bring 10 school books. Yes. Now, you couldn't say many kids would choose to do that, but that is fantastic. And today, you're the youngest ever UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador and the first refugee to be an ambassador. So it's really fantastic to have you here with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Sherrie Westin, you are the president of Global Impact and Philanthropy for Sesame Workshop, which is a non-profit educational organisation behind Sesame Street. And Fast Company named you a couple of years ago one of the most creative people. And we're going to be testing this out soon because we're going to be drawing a picture together.
It was not for my artistic
ability. It wasn't, but
no.
I think creativity is something which can take many forms.
We'll see. Yeah.
And it can flow into all sorts of ways. And you oversee Sesame Street in communities, which give kids the tools that they need to overcome traumatic experiences. And I was delighted to hear that you accompanied my beloved Muppet Elmo. Now, I did grow up with a Muppet show. So you accompanied Elmo. And for those who can't remember or don't know, he's the red furry one with the orange tip nose.
The little red 3-year-old.
The red 3-year-old.
Yes.
I know he was 3.
Yes,
That's very, I
3.5. He's always 3.5.
He's always 3.5.
Yes.
I always thought he was an adult. But anyway, but he and you went to Syria together to meet and work with refugees.
To Jordan, actually.
Oh, to Jordan. But you worked with Syrian refugees.
We went to
Jordan.
Syrian refugee camps in Jordan.
And what happened when you took Elmo there?
Well, I was actually where was for two of the camps you were in, Zaatari and Azraq. And the thing, I'll never forget my first trip there, and I did have Elmo with me. And do
you operate Elmo yourself?
No, I do not.
Okay,
no.
So you had somebody with Elmo?
There, of course.
Okay.
Very professional. But the thing I just loved about it is here, these children wouldn't necessarily recognize Elmo. They didn't grow up with Sesame Street, the US version, and yet they gravitated to him. They adored him. It's just, there's something about Muppets and children and that engagement that just brings joy. And so, Elmo was a little rock star. I just got to go along with him. But it was a wonderful way to first visit because you're looking at something that feels bleak and overwhelming, and what can you do to help? And then all of a sudden you see children are children, and they love to play, and they love these characters, and you realize how much hope and joy you can bring.
And Muzoon, when you were in the very same refugee camps just a little bit earlier, and you were already a bit older, but what did you see the younger kids doing? Were they playing, and what were they playing with?
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. First, I would like to correct something. I was the youngest Goodwill Ambassador at the time when UNICEF appointed me, but recently UNICEF has appointed another amazing young woman, Millie Bobby. She's so amazing, and she's the newest and youngest Goodwill Ambassador. I'm so proud of her, and to have more young people with UNICEF.
Fantastic.
Just to correct this.
Thank you for
but
that.
anyway, we are in the same path. But for your question, yes, in the camp, people, especially children, they really have hope, and they have same dreams like others, like Sherrie, of course, has seen and witnessed the love and joy that the children have, even in such difficult times.
So what are they playing with then?
We see them playing football. We have a lot of, football stadiums, small stadiums actually, playing fields where they can play football, which is something really amazing. They play another actually games that they used to play in Syria, like hiding, things like that, something really exciting. Yes, these kind of things, but sport, it is really common, especially for boys. they play football, they love football so much. And girls maybe at the school they can play basketball and things like that.
And what was it like for you? Because many teenagers who are in 9th grade, 13, 14, it is the time to start questioning, to rebel. And yet you were with your parents and you were, you know, probably quite an aware young woman, aware of the challenges and the trauma that your whole community was undergoing at a time when you wanted your independence. How did you balance those needs? Or were you just the good girl then?
It is hard, to be honest, but especially in the camps, I realized I grew up, even I'm still young, because you know, when you experience hardship in your life and if you have difficult circumstances, you become wiser basically, so you can understand and question things bigger than you even. So for me, education has been a very important part of my life. I always believed it is the way to be active in my society, to reach my dreams, to achieve my goals. So in the camp, my main concern was my education, my learning, my rights. So unfortunately, not every child maybe can realize this or fight or think about their rights. But for me, I was concerned about the things that I deserve, which is education and to have equality and to have access to my education. So I think, yes, now girls are more aware about their future. Young people, they have more awareness, especially you know, by technology. People now have more knowledge and they are aware about the things that they want to fight for and they want to obtain in their lives basically.
And what gave you the strength to know that that's what you wanted and the determination to succeed in that space?
I really don't know the main source basically, because
but it obviously happened almost before you left, because even before you left you chose to take those books.
Yeah, but for me,
grit.
Since I can remember, to be honest, I always know that education is so important to me. I didn't miss school. Even when I am sick, sometimes I tell my family I want to go to school. I loved it. I knew that it is the place where I feel safe, where I can learn new things in my life, where I can meet with other people, where I can learn basically. And that actually has given me the motivation to love education. But also I have come from a very educated family where my parents, especially my dad, cares so much about education. I saw what he gives his society when he was teaching children. He was doing something really good in his society. So I realized by education we can live a good life. We can also benefit others, not only ourselves. That's why when my dad told us to leave Syria and to bring the most important things to us, I have chosen my books, because I realized my education is the thing that gives me everything, and it is my hope when in such a difficult time.
So you might be able to tell why UNICEF decided to make her ambassador for education.
Yes. And it's interesting because you are also passionate about education, but you want to use education and you want to help kids understand and reach education through a very playful way. Can you explain more?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we focus on younger. Sesame Street really focuses on the early years, in part because we know that's when we can have the greatest return on investment. A child's brain is developing faster than any other time in their life in the first 5 years of life. But we also know, and there's the neuroscience to prove it today, that when a child experiences at a younger age than you were, traumatic experiences, and you can imagine how traumatic it would be to flee your home, to leave everything you've known. Many who've witnessed conflict, or the loss even of family members. So these children, when they experience that kind of trauma at an early age, it literally affects their brain development. It makes it far more difficult for them to learn. And the thing that is best to mitigate that effect is caring adults and more engagement with a caring adult. So much of what we're doing is we create local adaptations of Sesame. Our new Arabic Sesame will be called Ahlan Sensum, which means welcome Sesame, which is completely appropriate for what we're doing, because it's all about welcoming Syrian children side by side with Lebanese, Iraqi, Jordanian children, but to reach the youngest with their parents and provide educational content that also encourages more engagement between the adult and child.
That's fascinating. And are you interested in early in young children, the age that you reach, Sherrie, in your work?
I'm going to get her too.
You're
going to co-opt her. Yes, I'm going to.
You're getting interested in the younger kid questions?
Of course, yes, because we all can be kids in heart. Even if we grow up, if we have a young heart, we can understand young children and we can answer their questions and feel like them and share their happiness and their lovely moments. So I think it is what Sherrie is doing is something really fantastic, really amazing, and can show even the age difference is not matter. We all can be part of each other and help each other actually.
Absolutely.
And what do you think it is about these furry Muppets that really is able to connect with children? We've still got to draw.
I don't know what yours is. Yours is a brain.
So
and
it's a
who are these
child's brain,
guys?
and this is the love that's surrounding in order that the brain can grow.
Yes.
You see, the brain grows.
See, Fast Company should recognize you as one of the most creative.
With all all the love that's surrounding a child.
It's beautiful. The
we
Muppets.
Need Elmo, though.
I'll draw Elmo.
Go on, you draw Elmo.
So the thing about these characters is, so much goes into the writing. So it's
you can do that,
the characters are designed so that children can relate to them. So you'll know Elmo, but in our new production there will be a new Muppet named Jed, who is 6 years old and left his home.
Oh, okay.
He will become best friends with a little girl named Basma, who is 6 years old, who lives there. So you see the storyline. And we're giving storylines, we're creating these characters so children can see themselves, can relate to them. And even though Sesame teaches the academic basics, our mission is to help children grow smarter, stronger in terms of resilience and health, and kinder. So empathy and understanding. So we're modeling acceptance and inclusion.
That's fantastic.
All the while we're teaching children.
And this is the first time that you've had a refugee Muppet engaging with local Muppets?
Well, I hate to label him the refugee Muppet, but yes, because the storyline. Well, I'm going to say that it will be that he left his home and he becomes best friend.
So we don't know, he might not be a refugee, he might be an economic migrant.
The dialect in the show, the live action, are Syrian. So I think it is clear that it's modeling that so children feel less alone. Now I'm trying to draw Elmo.
Okay, now you draw Elmo.
Yeah.
No, that looks good. I'm wondering, because you deal with kids everywhere, but whether displaced kids face special challenges with kids who might be, encountering lots of issues but come from one place, don't face. What do you think?
I think in terms of children, no matter if they are displaced, migrants, or even refugees, so the label is not the issue. The issue is that to believe every child, no matter who they are and no matter from where they are or even how old they are, all of them, they deserve equality and they deserve equal opportunities, especially in terms of education. So all of them must get education, and when we go to help them, we shouldn't label them basically. What we need to do is just to understand their challenges and try our best to provide them with equality education, safe education, and the best opportunities that they can reach for building a good life.
And I'm wondering, as Goodwill Ambassador, there have been a lot of Goodwill Ambassadors, lots of famous celebrities.
Yeah.
And you are now a famous celebrity, but you're not originally known for being an actor or a musician, or you're known as somebody who has encountered similar challenges. And what difference does that make when you go to refugee camps? Maybe not even in Jordan, maybe also in other countries.
Yes, that's such a great question, because I feel the only difference that I have with UNICEF, with working in practice of what they do and go and talk about the challenges of other people, is my personal experience. I think having a personal experience make it easier for you to be closer to people, and even if you want to go and advise them, they can listen to you because you had the same experience.
Right. Yeah.
So
you talk about what you went through.
Yes, definitely, because I feel so proud that after all I had in my life, after all the challenges, I didn't give up, and I am not standing only for myself or even for Syrian children, but for every child, because I always say when I talk about my personal story, I'm not just representing Muzoon, I'm representing every child and everyone who has no voice. voice. So basically my voice is for the voiceless people.
And I know Muzoon has talked about wanting to go back to Syria to help rebuild.
Yeah, definitely.
And part of this whole initiative that Sesame Workshop is undertaking, and I should point out that we wouldn't have this opportunity if it weren't for the MacArthur Foundation, because they awarded us their first ever 100 and change. And it was for a partnership, not for Sesame alone, but working with the International Rescue Committee, because we knew we could create proven educational content through television, mobile phones, YouTube, but we also knew we needed to reach children directly. So the IRC provides the home visits. We provide
International Red Cross.
It's the International Rescue Committee.
Rescue Committee, sorry.
Yes. And so you think of their expertise on the ground, their incredible programs, and now we're providing them with Sesame content, storybooks, games, materials, training the home visitors, going into the homes directly, going to community centers and schools. So you get both the mass media and you get the direct services.
Yeah.
And the most important thing about using the mass media is you're reaching Syrian refugees, but also side by side with their neighbors in Jordan and Lebanon and Iraq. So you're reaching the host community as well as those who are displaced.
And do you think that a lot of kids, including in refugee camps, will have access to mobile phones? I'm wondering if that changes the way they think and engage with the world, and they think of their own positions and their own roles. What do you think?
Yes, that's really important, because basically when I was in the camps, we had no electricity and we had no access to internet, which affected our way of learning and also our way of connecting with the world, because we felt that we are isolated and we don't know what's happening around us, and we are just in the camps and we don't know anything. So for me, in terms of learning, it was really hard just to stick by books, and we don't discover new things by internet, or we have limited resources in terms of learning, but also in terms of communication, it was really hard because we didn't have social media at the time to contact others. We didn't have WhatsApp, for example, to talk to our friends, which was really, really hard. So I believe that internet is such a powerful means for children to have a connection with others and learning from others, and also discovering new things in their lives, because in that time they cannot feel they are isolated, but also they feel they are opened widely, and they can see others and hear about other people, and just can help them so much. And for me, it was one of the biggest challenges in the camps.
Really? That you went to the same camp
Yes.
that you were in?
Yes.
How did that feel? That must have brought back memories, both positive and negative, presumably.
Yeah, it was, of course, one of the negative ones, because it is so disappointing when you were in a country that you had access to TV, you had access to electricity.
You mean when you went from Syria to
of
Jordan?
Course,
yeah.
Yes, in Syria we had like a normal life and a good life like others around us. But in the camps we saw the difference. Like you are deprived from very basic things such as electricity, such as internet, that so many children like us cannot live without them.
Yes.
So I cannot imagine like now children live without WhatsApp, for example, or maybe Wi-Fi. So
But when you went back, and you went back to the camp which you used to live in, is that correct?
I didn't,
Not yet. Okay.
unfortunately, I couldn't go back to the camps, but I went back to Jordan.
Okay.
So I had the opportunity to meet with other Syrians who are studying outside the camps, but they are supported by organizations such as UNICEF. Also, that made me think and see the difference, basically. I know I didn't have the opportunity to go to the camps, but at the same time, I saw the difference of my first time in Jordan when I was a refugee, and when I went back to Jordan as a Goodwill Ambassador, as an activist who holds a huge responsibility now, because I don't think it is, I feel so proud of myself to reach this level of my life, but also I do believe now I have more responsibilities.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibilities on your shoulders.
Yes,
isn't it?
I do.
Does that sometimes feel like overwhelming? How do you manage that?
I know it is hard alongside my studies, especially now at university. I have a lot of assignments, a lot of exams, but also it is something I feel it is important to do, and something I love to do, because at the time when I feel so lucky, I have my normal life again, and I will never forget the people behind me who suffer and don't have equal opportunities like me. So I must basically fight for them until they have a normal life like me.
Yeah. That's really, really fascinating. Thank you so much. I'm really honoured to have you, Muzoon Almellehan and Sherrie Westin. And coming up in 20 minutes, Catherine Cheney will be doing an interview with Stephen King. We look forward to that.